Hi everyone. I'm going to be presenting about our experience in the Philippines. The presentation has the reflection we've had from our emergency and transitional response, as well as the permanent long-term housing solutions that we are providing right now. So I would like to start with this picture because it tells us the story about many of the challenges that we face there in the Philippines. The no-build zone was an area that was identified by the government that was trying to be enforced after the typhoon, and that was also very crowded, especially in Tacloban. We had, of course, a lot of population with a diversity of needs and vulnerabilities. We also had limited spaces for building new housing solutions. We had, of course, people losing livelihoods, losing families, family members, and documents. But we also had a lot of opportunities. Other citizens, residents, willing to host their fellows, willing to repair their house in a much better way. And I would say that, very important, we had land available nearby in the city area, and then we also had a government that was trying to become the driving force, and because they had experienced themselves the damages of the typhoon. In CRS, we had two different strategies. We had the emergency and transitional response, which focused on 3,000 families, providing a set of options, 7 different options according to needs. And that was until the government could provide a permanent solution. And then on the other hand, we had, or after that emergency and recovery response, we have the long-term one, which focused on another very vulnerable area. And the targeted 900 families to be relocated to a new resettlement with a community-driven approach. So what did we learn about this experience? How can we say that we chose areas and not by convenience? We can say that we had 6 different steps, and again, those steps apply for our emergency and long-term initiative. One of them is the mapping of the hazards, the mapping of the impact of the hazards. So first of all, either by doing it ourselves or through information available by other stakeholders, we need to understand the challenges that the area faced. No, in this case, the height of the storm surge. We need to understand the height of the storm surge. We need to map the different vulnerabilities or the risks, like the height of the storm surge, floodable areas. But we also need to understand the non-physical vulnerabilities that can be the tenure situation, which is very critical in an urban area. We need to understand as well the aspects of livelihoods. And then we can start our process of, say, identifying areas based on actual needs. We also had a deep analysis or deep surveys to understand the population's actual needs. We needed to know what was the level of damage of the shelters, of course, but we also needed to understand, was that their priority? Would they prefer to have assistance, let's say, for food or for education or some other income-generating support? We needed to understand that. And also, we needed to have directions from the government. So we needed to see what was their vision. Do they have a master plan? Do they have a vision for their own city that we can, as we build our projects, we can build upon? And that's very important, as we will see, for our long-term, or for either our exit strategy, but also for the long-term sustainability of our intervention. And then as we start getting out of that analysis, we need to start analyzing what options are feasible and are acceptable based on those needs and directed from the government. And I have to say that this is very important to get out of that convenience box. No, we need to identify not one or two solutions, but as many as we can to fit those diverse needs. And as we do that, we need to recognize, in the context of an urban area, that there are going to be, that these solutions might not be geographically linked to maybe the area that we are starting to consider. That people might choose solutions that are farther away, or that we did not consider being. So we need to welcome those and start assessing the formal and informal networks that will arise. In the specific case of resettlement that we are doing at the moment, that could help us to have a more cohesive neighborhood approach, or definition of a new neighborhood, and make it more efficient in the long term as we start creating committees. And one thing that we discuss as well is the links that remain. So even if people are moving out, they still come back. They might still come back to their old area, residence area. So those things, we need to embrace them, those new connections, and use them to build that project. To wrap it up, I have to say that when we embrace that urban complexity and we follow these different steps, we were basically driven to address many different topics that maybe we were not considering at the very beginning, dealing with the politics and governance issues, dealing with urban planning, and maybe also we had to deal with infrastructure at a scale that we didn't consider before. No, of course, water and sanitation, some DRR, but very, very critical as well was to explore with the government and the affected populations, how can we ensure the tenure, a safe tenure for them, so they can, recover the quality of life and be able to start generating income. As well, we had to facilitate a lot of protection and social activities to foster cohesion. And that is, of course, things that takes us out of the convenience box of that we might have in a single-oriented project. And we think that is very, very useful, because in the end, it ensures a lot of buy-in by the different stakeholders, the population itself, but also by the government. We ensure that the people are stable and they can remain safe and develop their life. And it drives all of us to coordinate better, to provide a holistic approach, to cover not only ourselves, but also with the own community, to cover as many needs as we can together. And then, of course, it connects with the long-term vision for the city and facilitates our exit strategy as international organizations, building towards a proper, a safe, durable, and sustainable intervention. And I think that that was the synthesis of the 6 different steps and embracing the urban complexity that we had and across the 2 different initiatives, the emergency and the permanent intervention. Thank you very much.